Okay, guys. It's one of those days, right? The curly hair day in LA. It's raining, and it's not looking so. It's kind of like shabby chic. So bear with me with that part. If I'm scaring you, it's just because I've been out in the rain, and my curls really don't like that. So tonight, I want to do this really special webinar because I think that in business and in life in general, I think that accessing your intuition is pivotal to how we communicate with other people, how we live our lives, how we tune into synchronicities, the whole 9 yards. So I really want to get into some of the things that help me succeed and get to where I am today. And I want to say to you that first off, I guess I want to talk about my story because my story is not a traditional one. It's a little bit of a funky story. So I'm originally Canadian, and I came from a small town on the east coast of Canada, just above Maine, and it had the population of about 33 to 36,000. There were literally more people than trees, or more trees than people, sorry. And I really couldn't do what I wanted to do, and I knew it. So I knew I needed to leave, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do that because my one way of really accessing life at that time was through the brain, through the mind, because I was very mental based. I was very mind plane based. And as a numerologist, of course, I'm always looking at things through the mind. And we're going to get into that. Are you a thinker, a feeler, or a doer? And that's really going to predict whether or not you're going to succeed at what you're doing and how you're going to go about it. So you probably caught me on my accent already. I've got the out and about that really catches people and gives away that I'm not necessarily from Los Angeles. So I've been here for about 3 years. I have the O1 visa, which is called the Outstanding Individual Visa. And I was able to, through a series of a lot of really great synchronicities and what I call accessing my intuition, I was able to get the O1 visa, which means that I had the top of my field. And of course, that's, if you're an actress or a model or something like that, it can be tough to do. I mean, you really would either have to be someone like Demi Moore or, some classic person who's been around the block and has had a lot of awards and a lot of movies under their belt and things like that. So for me, being a numerologist, I've had the media exposure. I've had, the two books that I had published and those kinds of things. It was really helped me out in terms of proving my worth and value to be able to move to the US. But the synchronistic part is that I really got tired of my life in the East Coast. So much so that I sold my house and everything in it. And I don't recommend this to everybody, but I did. I sold everything. I sold my house, and on closing day, I had a trailer, a 5x8 trailer with literally my clothes and some pictures, and that's about it. And I went across Canada, and I stopped in Calgary because I wanted a fresh start, but I wasn't sure where. So I went all the way to Calgary because I had a friend there, and she said, "Well, why don't you just stay here for a little bit and we'll see how things go." So it wasn't even quite 2 weeks. Well, I guess maybe about 2 weeks. And CTV Morning Live called me out of the blue. And mind you, I had taken down everything. I had taken down my websites. I had taken down everything that I thought was related to my old self and the self that I really didn't want to live anymore. So I'd taken down everything, and they called and said, "We hear you're a numerologist and we'd like you to be a guest on the show." And I said, "All right then, sure, absolutely." So I'm not quite sure how they were able to find me, but they did. And thank goodness they did, because it led to a whole series, a whole string of media interviews with not just that platform, but with Breakfast Television, City TV, and so on and so on. So it really gave me that platform that I needed to get to where I was going, because I had been visiting LA for many years, and I knew that it was my home. It was the only place in the world that really felt like home to me. And it wasn't the glitz and the glamour that attracted me. It was just that it was my home. And so I'm finalizing my green card now, so I'm to be permanent, and my dream has come true. And how has it come true? Is because I accessed my intuition. The moment I switched over from living through my brain, living through having to know 10 steps ahead of me, to just winging it. And I know that sounds crazy to say, well, you can't wing yourself through life. You kind of can. And I don't want you to, go out and do crazy things. But what I'm saying is there are actual things that other people would call winging it, but it's really not winging it. It's following your gut and following that right answer, because your gut instinct, your intuition is always going to be the right answer. And I am proof positive of that. I literally feel like some days I'm invincible, that I can't do any wrong when I'm following my intuition, because the choices I make always end up being the best choices. So we're going to go through some points. And the first point is, how many people out there really know and really feel like they're doing what they should be doing? And I can name so many people off the top of my head that I know who are living the wrong path, the wrong lifestyle, the wrong career choice, and they're not happy. So why continue to live that lifestyle if you're not happy? So that's rule number one. Use your intuition to say, okay, what is my passion? What is it that makes my heart sing? What is it that makes me lose track of time? Is there a hobby? Is there anything that you do that you love to do, but you feel like you can't turn it into a career? There could be side avenues. It's like a big spider web. There could be so many little pathways, and I'm telling you, this is something that I do on a regular basis. Is I do business coaching for people. I do branding, which is something I'm, just naturally good at. I seem to really get into the brand and be able to match the brand with the client and what you're looking for. So first off, you really got to know what you want and where you want to be and what it is that you want to do. And thankfully, because of the numbers, and because I knew at that time, after starting to dream in numbers, that that was my passion and my purpose. I knew what I needed to go after. It was just a matter of following my gut instincts and trying to figure out how I was going to get to that place. So that's the first point. I mean, you really, really have to fine tune and hone that. If you're not happy with that, then you might as well turn this webinar off right now, because that's step number one. All the rest of the steps are not going to be relevant to you if you can't find what it is that you're wanting to actually do in life. And yes, you can go through the rest of this webinar. I'm just kidding. But you can definitely go through the rest of the webinar and learn a lot. But that is like rule number one. You've got to figure out what it is that you want to do, that you need to do, that your soul's expressing, that it wants to express. And here's the thing. So here's point number two that I want to make, is that humans, and I know this sounds kind of like sci-fi, like Star Trek, humans are really the only species that can communicate consciously through words. So let that sink in for a minute, because you can have monkeys and parrots and other animals who can, communicate through words, but they're not consciously creating. They're not able to know exactly what they're saying with those words, and there's no feeling behind those words. So it's like a child who might say a cuss word to their parent, and the parent is like, and the child's like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And so that's the whole thing with the words that you're using. They're so important. And there are so many people who go through life saying, I'm a loser, or I'm always going to be a loser. I'm always going to never have any luck, and I might as well give up because it's never going to happen. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, you really have to start choosing your words wisely. And being the author of The Energy of Words, I mean, I really had to get that book out first, because most people said, well, you're a numerologist. Why are you getting that Energy of Words out first when you should be getting soul numbers out first, which is your numerology book? And I said, because I have to get this out to people now. They need to know that the words that they're saying are manifesting exactly what they want, and that's not what they want. So what I did with my own vocabulary, and I was really the people pleaser, the on the fence person, couldn't make a decision, always, what do you think? What do you think I should do? How do you think I should do it? Asking everybody else. I switched my vocabulary to things like absolutely, to things like for sure, and I will do this, I will achieve this, and really doubtless words. They have to be doubtless. And what I mean by doubtless is that there's no room for wishy-washy. There's no room for that, well, what if this or what if that? You can't fit that in there when you say absolutely. If someone asks you, do you want to go to this dinner networking meeting? And you say absolutely, then there's no room for saying, well, I might have this other thing or that, this and that and the other thing. So you really got to get your words down. You really got to get those manifesting words down pat. Pick a bunch of words. Pick like the top 10. And in my book, I really stress, pick that top 10 vocabulary and focus on that. Put it on sticky notes, do what you need to do, but really get it down pat, because my favorite word is absolutely, and I say it all the time. I mean, I probably overkill it, but that's okay. It's the way that I roll, and it really helps me to be doubtless. If I can say one thing about Wayne Dyer, for example, and I'm not a big guru fan, I wasn't really the one to follow different gurus. I'd pick and choose different things that they would say that would resonate with me. But one of the things that Wayne Dyer said, and, rest his soul, but he said the word no very well. And what I mean by that is he would say, if something didn't resonate with him, he would say no. No, I don't think so. That's not something that I want to do. The way that he expressed it was from the soul. It was the soul saying, no, this is not for me. This is not something that is in my path. This is not something that is meant for me. And it really struck a chord with me. And I think that a lot of people can't say no, and that gets them into a lot of trouble as well. So, business owner wise, and I know this is a webinar that is on the meetup group for the spiritual entrepreneur. And most of us are these days having to deal with a lot of spiritual people, even if you're not a quote unquote spiritual entrepreneur in that field, you're still dealing with people, and people are spiritual beings. So this applies to everyone. And I want to say that, communication, this is something that a lot of people don't recognize, is that communication is definitely an intuitive process. And if you don't have that people skill ability to intuit what the other person is saying, and I'm not saying to be that psychic that's, cold reading them and saying, you're saying this, so I'm going to say this. I'm saying that it's an intuitive process where I would say something and you would react to my expressions, my body language, my tone, all of those things, and then react accordingly. If you notice, with friends, family, whoever, you're always intuitively responding. And so it's such an intuitive process, whether you're dealing with someone who's close to you or a client. You have to really be able to read them and sum them up very quickly and say, okay, this person seems to be a very mental-based person, or this person seems to be an introvert or an extrovert, and respond accordingly. Get into their language, get into their vibe, and really start responding in that way. And that's what I'm leading into now, is that, are you a thinker, feeler, or doer? And what I mean is that because humans operate on 3 levels, we're either thinking something, feeling something, or doing something and I'm pointing to my legs because that's the physical. So we either have the mental, the emotional or soul, and then the physical realm of action. So what are you? Where do you fit? Where do you feel that you fit? Are you very emotional based? Do you deal with people more emotionally? Do you deal with them more mentally, thinking things through? Or do you just wing it and go by the seat of your pants and you're more of a doer than a thinker or a feeler? So you need to know this, and you also need to kind of not necessarily, you're not going to straight up ask them, are you a thinker, feeler, or doer? But you want to intuit that. You want to be able to size them up very quickly and say, I've done my homework on this client and I've also met them in person now, and I feel like I need to respond to them in this way. And it really makes a difference if you're responding to somebody, even if, let's say, you're a doer and this person is a very analytical, very mind-based person. You can still get to their level. And that's the whole key. That's the whole key with matching at the same level. So if they're more of a feeling person and they kind of go with their gut feeling on things and they're not really overthinking things, or they are an overthinker, then you've got to maneuver your strategy or your client pitch or whatever it is that you're doing toward that client, because it's very personal. And that's where people go wrong, is that they're treating every customer, every client the same, and they're not the same. They're definitely not the same. So who is your client? Who are they? Are they a thinker, feeler, or doer? They're one of those three. And you really want to fine tune your proposal, your pitch, your whole 9 yards around that key area. And, I used to be the thinker, the overanalyzer. I had to do, 10 steps in front of me. I had to be the perfectionist. But now I kind of wing it and go by the seat of my pants because it works for me. And I definitely go by that intuitive voice. And, it sounds crazy to say wing it. And, I don't want to scare you and say that I wing it completely, because I don't. But I definitely go by that little voice inside that says, this might sound a little crazy to my mind, but my heart says yes. And for example, I was meeting with a client with a business partner of mine who is doing some social media with me, and we're doing social media for clients. And she wanted to meet him at Starbucks, and I thought, no, let's meet him at the office. And I think she was a little bit intimidated, thinking, meeting a man, the two of us at the office, it might be a little sketchy. And I said, you know what, I feel good about it. And sure enough, it was great. It was perfect. And so it's just really keeping with that flow, with that intuitive flow. And here's another thought, or I guess food for thought, so to speak. Do you need to be a people person to be an entrepreneur? And a lot of people have this feeling that you've got to be a people person to be an entrepreneur. You've got to be that open, boisterous, over the top. And I'm over the top. I have to admit, but you don't have to be that to be an entrepreneur. I mean, that's not something that is necessary. And people who aren't boisterous and an extrovert and over the top, you can still access your intuition. That has nothing to do with it whatsoever. And I think that's a stigma that is associated with being a business owner. And I think we're already kicking ourselves down a couple notches when we're an introvert or we're not bubbly and boisterous and the people person and all that stuff. When we say that we're an entrepreneur, I think we're already feeling like we're inadequate. So drop that one completely. I mean, you can be an entrepreneur without having to be that boisterous extrovert that is a bit over the top. People have to kind of put me down a couple notches, if you know what I mean. So I've got it the other way. So let's go to that. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? You want to know that. You want to know that because you're going to know, by knowing that about you, how you're going to interact with clients who may be like me, who are over the top and boisterous and, ask silly questions and just tell it like it is. Sometimes I'll just be off the hook and say, just, I guess, call out the elephant in the room. That's really the bottom line. And you really need to know this about yourself. And also, use your intuition about your client. Say, is this person an introvert or an extrovert? How do I deal with this client? It's so personal. It's so very personal. And, I think a lot of people will create packages and, coaching packages and things like that, which is great. I mean, you definitely need to do that. But each client you get, you're going to need to fine tune. You're going to need to use your intuition. You're going to need to do it both ways. It's got to go both ways. So with your intuition, I always say, and most people know this, is that your first response is always your intuitive one. So if it sounds crazy, if it sounds like, this is logically, it just sounds crazier than I don't know what. Uh, it just sounds like this is going to be like a total mess. But your heart is so strong in saying yes, 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 yes. Then go with the yes, 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 yes. Because I can tell you from experience, I've been doing this for 15 years. And it's never done me wrong. And I know that's grammatically not correct, but it's never done me wrong. That's my slang. It's never done me wrong. And, the last thing that I want to say with this part is that synchronicity comes with winging it. And sometimes that just happens. And the synchronicity comes strong and fast when you're following your intuition. For example, I work for LotteryUSA.com, and LotteryUSA.com is the oldest lottery results site in the USA. And I found a dollar bill on the sidewalk, a dollar bill, a week before they called me to ask if I would do a weekly column, paid, and it's a paid gig for them, and voila. So that's my life. My life is one giant synchronicity. I meet the right people, places, and things because I'm tuned into my gut. And what looks crazy on the outside is not crazy on the inside. So you've got to really define the two. You've really got to understand that one's not going to match the other. It's really never going to match the other. So that's the golden rule. And, I definitely want to say that when I started to live my life through my intuition, my life dramatically improved. Dramatically. I mean, the success rate went from, 50-50 to 99%. I mean, I really feel like I'm invincible some days where whatever I set my mind to, I can do. And when I'm meeting with clients, I just know how to respond. I know how to meet them on that page. I know how to meet them on that level. And I've been known, just as a numerologist, of course, meeting them at a dinner date or coffee or whatever and saying, what is your date of birth? And I'll do it on a napkin and write their information on there and figure out, are they a thinker, feeler, or doer? So it might be worth your while to learn a little bit of numerology, a little bit of science and numbers too, because it definitely helps to figure out who they are, what level they're coming from. So it's kind of like that classic nagging wife and tuned out husband. It's like the wife is the nagger and the husband is very physical based. So she's very mental based, he's very physical based. How do you get them to meet in the middle and say, wait a second, she's not really nagging, she's just overthinking, and he's not tuning me out. He just doesn't get where I'm coming from because he doesn't think about things, he just does them. So it's about meeting in the middle, and he can say, wait a second, she's in her overthinking mode, so I'm going to take her for a walk. Let's go for a walk. Let's walk in nature, get you out of your mind, and then you guys can relate. So it's really about understanding the language. And that's through intuition. Understanding the client, the person that you're dealing with, their language. What is it? You need to speak their language. So with this intuitive stuff, I mean, it can go on and on, of course. And I didn't want to make this super long. I did have it blocked out for 2 hours, and I really want this to be short and sweet, but I also we have a chat on the side. We also have the ability to bring people in. So if you chat on the side and you want to come in on the video and ask a question, let me know because I can give you the link through chat and you can come on. So I'm going to actually post that link right now on the chat. And if you'd like to come on, you need a Gmail account. And there it is on the chat on the side, on the right-hand side. So I want you to ask questions. I want you to be able to come on and say, you know, yeah, I've used that tactic, or I've used that way of thinking or that way of doing, and it's worked for me. Or what hasn't worked for you, or what question you have that you need help with. Because there's so much more to that than just what I've said. And that's how I deal with my clients. And what works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other, but the intuitive stuff, the outline of what I've said is the fact that you really need to intuit your clients. You really, as much as you have your generic pitch or your generic outline to your business, you need to be the intuitive one. It doesn't matter if you have a lighting company or a consulting company. It's the same thing. If someone comes in to look for a light or a lamp or a chandelier, you've got to sit there and think, what's this person all about? Who are they? And they'll be really impressed with you if you're able to really intuit. And remember, the first answer is always the right answer. So if you sum them up and say, this person looks eccentric, they look a little bit like they might like something a little odd, a little different. So I'm going to take them to this section of the lighting store. And so that's really what I'm talking about, is like going with your gut. And my life just turned on a dime. It just really turned on a dime. And further to that story about about the dollar is that several weeks later, I found a lottery ticket, a scratch lottery ticket that had free ticket. Someone had already scratched it. And something else big came down the tubes after I found that as well. So it's the synchronicities. It's like the breadcrumbs come quickly. The universe drops you breadcrumbs when you follow your intuition. So you need to remember that. I mean, that I can't stress it enough. It's just your intuition is there. It's a tool. And society says one thing. Society says this: emotions are erratic, unreliable, unpredictable. But are they? No. Our emotions and our intuition are our navigation system. They're incredibly accurate. They are not irrational, or, well, they could be compared to the mind, but they are our navigation system. They will never steer you wrong. They will always take you to the place you need to be at the right time, in the right moment, in the right place, with the right people. So you've got to remember that too, that society makes it out to be like you're crazy if you're going by your intuition, and you're flying by the seat of your pants, and that's crazy. And you need to have a business plan, and you need to have this, and you need to have that. I've never written a business plan in my life. I started my business from scratch, my own dollar, had nothing, did my own websites for a while, did everything by myself, and built my empire solely without any outside help in terms of financial, in terms of any of that. So the standard things that when you think of business, it's very boring, it's very dry, it's like technical, but it's not technical. And especially when you're in my line of work, I'm not technical. So, I mean, it's just something that you need to keep in mind. You need to have that under your belt. Even the place that I have is an office space. It's on Melrose, the corner of Melrose and Fairfax. And I couldn't have lucked into a better space because I have free valet parking in the back. Who has free valet parking in LA? Hello. It's, if you know LA, if anyone's watching and they know LA, parking is a nightmare. And you pay a lot for it and you get a ticket quickly if your meter runs out, especially in the West Hollywood, kind of on the border of West Hollywood and Los Angeles. So it's like right there on the cusp. And so the corner of Melrose and Fairfax. And so they're on it. And if you're parked on the street and you run out, you're going to get a ticket. But in the back, it's free valet parking. And this guy is like so talented. He's like the best. He'll park you any which way. He won't turn anybody away. So I intuited that. I said, you know what? I want an office space that is prestigious. Melrose is like second to none in terms of shopping. Of course, Rodeo Drive is the number one, which I definitely could window shop, but couldn't afford. But Melrose is definitely a shopping district, and it's very Art Deco. There's a lot of, it's very varied, and it's clean. It's one of the best places in LA, I think. And to be on the corner like that is just worth its weight in gold. And I stumbled upon it. I really just set my intention. And I think that's another thing that we really need to focus on, is setting your intention. And I want to leave you, and like I said, I don't want to ramble on and carry this on longer than it needs to be, because this is just short and sweet for the first round of accessing your intuition to maximize your business success, is that you really do need to just, I totally lost my train of thought. Isn't that so weird? That is so bizarre. I had in the description, of course, I've had 3 near-death experiences. One when I was 4, I choked on one of those gobstoppers, which completely put me under. I was watching my mom actually outside my body taking this thing from my throat. And then the second time I ended up having a lack of carbon dioxide. I think it's carbon. Yes, carbon dioxide, what we breathe out. So I was lacking that, and I ended up having what they call life review, where I was seeing everything coming at me at a very rapid pace, and I could see, that's why I did that, and that's why I did that, and I understand this now, and I understand why that happened. And then the third one, I had a 7-minute seizure, which I had never had a seizure before in my life. And I was at the garage, the mechanic garage, and I was on the sidewalk when I woke up. However, the last thing I remember was talking to this guy who had dropped off his car, and he was having it fixed. And he said, you don't look so well. And then all of a sudden I said, oh, I'm dropping my peanuts everywhere. And then the next thing I know, I woke up to paramedics and firemen all around me. And it was quite something. And I peed my pants in the whole 9 yards. And that was another scenario where it was a different experience of the afterlife yet again, where I was actually seeing white light beings, no shape to them. Very interesting. But, my memory is not what it used to be because of the seizure, and it seems to come and go. So that's why I want to keep this short and sweet as well, because my memory just doesn't serve me like it used to. But I definitely want to say about this accessing your intuition is that if you're not doing this, you're probably not doing well. And I do things like I said, business coaching, business branding, and I also do just lifestyle branding and life in general coaching, life coaching, and I show you how to get success in the way that I've done it, but based on your qualities and your traits. So let's say you're not an extrovert like I am, you're not over the top, you're not this or that or the other thing, you're the other way. So how do we get you there? And I'm I kind of classify myself as an expert in a way, as to understand how people think. So I know how to meet people here. So it doesn't matter if you're a thinker or a doer or a feeler, I can get you here. And I know exactly how to relate to you. And to do that is to solidify the deal, to say that I get you and I know what to do for you. And it's going to help you so much in business. I can guarantee it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. about it. You really just have to nail down the algorithm, and it's just a very simple algorithm. It's called intuition, and it's your gut feeling. So I want to leave you with that. If you don't have any questions, if you don't have chat, I know I've been seeing some Facebook things going on, so I don't know if someone's been asking via Facebook, but I will answer it after the fact too. And this will be on replay. So we're going to do another one on this too. This was kind of just a basic one to show you that, you know, we have intuition and we should be using it every single day. So that's the gist of today's show, and I wanted to leave you with the fact that this year is going to be a huge year, because the global year is a 9 year, which 9 is the number of intuition and sensitivity. It is very much the pioneer. It is the number of the beginning and the end of a cycle. It's a high change whirlwind energy. They say that 9 is very pivotal because it is the beginning and the end. So it does have that intuitive sense to it. So, and again, I'm seeing more Facebook notifications. So I'm not sure what people are doing on Facebook, but I'll be on Facebook in just a second and I'll answer your questions. But you can also send me an email. I'm always approachable. And that's the other thing, you know, when you follow your intuition and you're really grounded and down to earth in that, you're just you know, and there's nothing to hide behind. There's nothing to pretend that you're not. And I always tell people, I'm just Michelle. I'm just little Michelle, you know, and I'm 5'2", and I'm, you know, crazier than crazy, but you know, it works for me. And just be yourself and follow that gut instinct, and you're going to be a success. But with the branding and things like that, you know, there is tweaking to be done. There's definitely tweaking. You need to match your brand with your clients. And we'll go through that in the next set of webinars. So I want to leave you with that. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll do another one very soon. So enjoy your Tuesday, and we'll connect again really soon. Thank you.